Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Michigan State University Wealth Management Association podcast. My name is Justin Jackson, and I'm the Director of Member Relations for MSU WMA. Today's guest is Justin Castelli, a financial advisor and founder of RLS Wealth in Fishers, Indiana. He's also the founder of the AGC, a community that helps financial advisors grow and collaborate. Justin is a certified financial planner who has been featured on platforms like CNBC, Bloomberg, and the Journal of Financial Planning. Additionally, Justin is an excellent content creator. You can check it out at allaboutyourbenjamins.com. We've got a great episode for you today, so stay tuned. Justin Castelli, thank you for coming on the show.
Justin, thank you for having me on. I love your name.
You got a great name. I'd like to start off by saying I'm a huge fan of yours. I've been following your content online for over a year now, and as a college student in a CFP program, you've had a large impact on myself, inspiring me to be more authentic, and largely influencing the club to create our own podcast right here. So thank you for being an inspiration to the next generation of financial advisors.
Well, you can't see it right now, but I literally have goosebumps as you're telling me that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Part of the reason for creating content was, well, there's many reasons. It was to educate the public. It was to try to grow my business, but I really want to see our profession flourish. And I know that we need to have good advisors succeeding, and we need to have good advisors coming into the profession. And what I've learned over 16 years of being in the business is people really want to work with people that they like. And there's no better way than to be your authentic, be your true self. And I know authenticity is a word that people make fun of from time to time, but it's so true. It rings true. I've had clients say that, other advisors say that, people like yourself. So I'm glad that message is coming through. And I just want to encourage you to keep going down that path. Keep pushing the envelope, keep trying to do the things, and keep being yourself, and it will pay huge dividends.
Nice. So before I get into some more questions here, I was just wondering if you could share who you are, what you do as an advisor and entrepreneur, and some of the interesting things that you're involved in outside of your immediate financial planning practice.
Sure. So the quick story is, my name is Justin Castelli. I've grown up in Indiana my entire life. Went to a small Division III school, south of Indianapolis. Played basketball. Was going to go to law school. Planned to go to law school. Met my wife before my senior year of college, and just realized that another 3 years of school was not what I wanted to do. And that's when I found financial advising. As a liberal arts school, I only had a handful of finance and econ classes, and I honestly didn't even really care about them. But when I got out of school, I started networking to figure out what it is I was going to do. I started meeting with various advisors, different business models, but ultimately just realized I really enjoyed the idea of meeting with people, helping them out, solving problems, and never having the same day over and over and over. As an advisor, our days are never the same. So from there, I landed at an insurance-based firm and was there for a year. It served its purpose. I learned a lot there. And then I moved to a bank for a year. Again, another step towards where I was supposed to go. I honestly hated being in a branch, though. Next step was to work at a 403B company, and I spent 7 years there. And that was where I got my CFP designation. That's where I started to look at the business and try to build a business, if you will, of clients that would one day maybe follow me. Had planned on starting my own firm at that point, but then met a woman in town that had a succession planning opportunity. So I went to go work with her. That didn't work out. And then I launched my own firm a little over 5 years ago. So that's the professional story of where I went. And I think we'll kind of touch a little bit more on how I think that path is pretty normal in our profession, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Once I launched the firm, I started working with young professionals and retirees. So most of my career has been working with retirees. But when I started the firm, I wanted to be able to work with young professionals as well. I basically didn't want to tell anybody no. I didn't have a niche at the time. I just wanted to work with people that I liked, no matter where they were. So I rolled out a subscription model, which is just like a flat monthly fee, allowed me to do financial planning at a lower cost for young professionals, scale down the big wealth management relationship, give it to young professionals at an earlier age, and start to build my business for the long term. And had success there and have just continued to grow. And over the last couple of years, I think that's where the entrepreneur in me had come out. And I co-founded a private community for advisors called the AGC. So there's a lot of advisors, over 120 advisors across the globe, that collaborate, we learn together, really focus on growing and improving the profession. I've done some consulting with advisors when it comes to branding and strategy, just finding ways to give back to the profession that excite me. And what I've learned is over the last couple of years that I really enjoy working with other financial advisors. So I have my advisory firm and just starting to build out some things to help out other advisors as well, like a online course for how to build out a subscription model. I'm getting ready to launch that probably end of the month or beginning of next month. So lots of little things have come up, but I've really enjoyed it. And the nice thing about owning my own business is it affords me the flexibility to be able to pursue these other entrepreneurial endeavors that I come up with.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a lot of interesting things happening in the independent space. So it seems like there are opportunities to be creative within the space, from business model to marketing, how you present yourself. So can you explain what it's like to work as an independent advisor for students who may not know anything beyond what the large companies who have, large recruiting resources and HR teams, they give their message to a lot of young people, but the independent guys doing the stuff that you're doing, that's not a narrative we hear a whole lot. So
Yeah.
can you explain like who should consider the path of working for an independent advisory firm, or is it for everybody?
Is it for everybody? I think that you don't have to go independent. So independent was right for me because I had the desire to create content and be a little bit more ahead of the curve when it came to marketing and doing the things I wanted to do with my firm, having the subscription model. So the big difference between the independent space and the wirehouse world, the big insurance companies, the bigger corporate environment is really comes down to compliance. At the end of the day, we're all pretty much able to do the same types of planning. We have the same types of products available to present to our clients and invest for them, or get them in the right insurances and things. So we all have the same tools. It's more of when you're in a corporate environment, you may have some more restrictions, whether it be you can't have a blog because compliance won't let you, or you have to use a certain product line because that's what the company wants you to do. When you go to the independent space, especially if you own your own, but even if you go to the independent space and you don't own your own firm, there's a lot more flexibility with what you can do. You have access to more investments. There's really no limitations to what you can do. And when you really like start peeling back the layers of the onion, and when it comes to independence, you can be independent as a registered investment advisor, which is what my firm is. So we're fee only. We don't do any products. We don't make any commissions. But you can also still be independent and be what they call a hybrid. So maybe most of your business is in that fee-based world, but you still might sell some term insurance, or you might do some annuities, or whatever it might be that is right for your clients. So you're getting commissions and you're also doing fees. One of the things I think that you might see as you start to come into the profession and you start to do some research and spend some time out on social media is that unfortunately financial advisors like to fight with each other about who's the better advisor. My business model is better than yours. My fees are better than you. My investment style is better. And honestly, it's silly. It doesn't accomplish anything. And it really frustrates me as an advisor because I don't think that from the outside looking in, that really bodes well for what prospective clients and clients think of us as a profession. Like
Yeah, and
how,
I'd like to add as a young entry level advisor, a college student, it's harsh, and we see this kind of conflict. You don't know if you're doing the right thing, by joining a different model, or you don't know what's kind of the right way to even go into it. So
yep.
I definitely see that.
I have a very strong opinion on that. My strong opinion on that is, especially starting out in the profession, it doesn't matter the model you go into. What matters is where you position the client. If you position the client to be the focus of your work and you're going to do what's right for them to the best of your capabilities. When I worked at the 403B company, I didn't have every investment option available. I didn't have access to the lowest cost funds, but I made sure that everything I did for my clients was the best that I could for them in that environment. And that's all I could do. That doesn't mean I'm a bad advisor. It just means I have restrictions. And at that stage of my career, that's where I needed to be. I'm not a very aggressive person when it comes to business development. So I wasn't going to go out and door knock. I wasn't going to cold call, sitting in a teacher's lounge, doing reviews with teachers, answering their questions, and then finding who wanted financial planning was right for me to gain experience, was right for me to build my business. And ultimately, that is the foundation of what let me start my firm. So I think that as a young professional coming into this business, don't get hung up on, am I in the right model? I think you need to find somewhere that's going to have a good training program to give you some experience. Ideally, not somewhere where you have to call your 100 friends and give them a name and try to just sell, but where you're actually going to get some training and then just put the client first. And if you do that, good things will come. And as you gain more experience, you'll learn what are the things in your current environment that maybe you don't like or don't align with your values. And then you start to know what to look for in other businesses. So I believe no, I know this. I know there are good advisors in every business model. I know there are bad, shady advisors in every business model as well. So the fee only world, and the world that I live in, loves to tout that we're the best model. We're conflict free. There's no model that doesn't have any conflicts. Fee only may have fewer, but it doesn't mean it's the best. And technically, there are things that as a fee only advisor, I don't have access to within my company that some advisors might neglect. There might be a fee only advisor that has clients that are at risk for not having enough life insurance, but because they can't sell it, they don't address it. There's no monetary incentive for them to do that. So there's no perfect model. It's more about how the advisor treats their clients and what they do. And I wouldn't get hung up on the business model. And all of that bickering to me is just, it's insecure advisors who aren't confident in their skills and what they do, that the way they try to elevate themselves is by putting other people down. And it's just like bullies in middle school and high school. I believe that we all as advisors rise together, which is why I'm such a proponent of highlighting other advisors. I love seeing other advisors succeed. I love the fact that you have this podcast, and I can't wait to go tweet it out and put it through LinkedIn and let people know about what it is that you're doing. Because if more attention is brought to you and what you're doing, that's good for you. And if you come into our profession and you do a good job, then there are people who have a good experience with financial advisors, and that makes my profession looks better, and that's better for me as well. So I think we all rise together, and we should be highlighting, collaborating, and elevating each other rather than bickering over who's got the best investment strategy or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so that kind of leads to another thing I'd like to talk about. And it's like, how do you brand and market yourself? So, you work with other advisors on this a lot. So especially for younger entry level people, how do you learn, to create opportunities for yourself in media? How do you learn to position yourself as an individual with your personal brand? How do you market yourself? How do you create content? Are these things that, entry level advisors should be concerned about?
I think yes. So I was sharing with you before we started recording, I hired a young advisor. He's 25. And the first thing I did was we launched a blog for him. And it's a blog that he owns. So if he ever were to leave, the blog is his. He gets to take it. He has his own personal brand, because I believe that works for the way that I want to grow the firm. So I want to take a step back and say, I believe content is one of the best ways to grow your business. It is a long game, so you can't go start creating content and think it's going to pay dividends right away. It's something that you do as you're building your business in the more traditional ways. Telling people what you do, connecting, having lunches. As you're younger, doing happy hours and things of that sort. But create content while you're doing that, because it's just like compound interest. The more and more content you create, the bigger your library, the more people find it, the better you get at the content you're creating. And then one day, boom, all of a sudden it clicks and it's on fire. The other thing I want to say is, if that's not you, don't force yourself to try to create content. I think authenticity, again, we talked about it earlier, is very, very important. So in the content you create, whether that's a blog or whether that's a podcast, or if you do video, you've got to be able to be yourself. And being yourself is a very important part of it. Part of the reason to do content is to let people get to know you before they actually meet you. So that when they finally pick up that phone or they send that email, they've already decided that they want to work with you, Justin. They like everything about you. They like what you stand for. They like your views on investing. They like your views on financial planning. They're already a fan. So at that point, they want to work with you. And now the tables are flipped and you're figuring out, are these good clients for me to work with? Which puts you in a great position to build a practice or build a book of business that is filled with people that you want to be surrounded with, that you want to spend time with, and that you like, rather than just finding the next person that can invest money or buy insurance or whatever it might be that you need to do. And now you have this, in that situation, you have a book of business of people that maybe you like, maybe you don't. Some of them are paying. So the content for me is very important. How do you do it? I think it's coming into the profession, it might be a little bit harder. I think when I walk an advisor through this process, one of the first things I do is I kind of put them through a financial planning process, but not for the number side of things. I really want to get to know who that advisor is from a professional standpoint. So what are your views on financial planning? What are your views on investing? What are your morals when it comes to an advisor? What do you stand for? And then who are you as a person? And then you start to merge those two things together. I would say the majority of your content needs to be educational, showing your expertise, not giving advice, but giving education. So you need to position yourself as an expert. And then then you sprinkle in a little bit of your personality. So for me, hip hop finds its way into my content. My family finds its way into my content. My love of sports and fitness. It's not all I write about, but every once in a while it finds itself in there. So you get a feel of who I am. You see what I know as an advisor. You see what I believe in. You get an idea of what it would be like to work with me. And then you get to see and hear me and decide, okay, I like his personality or I don't. So I do think it's something that advisors should heavily consider. When I look at the future, I envision firms having like a firm brand, and then each of their advisors has their own personal brand that funnels into this overarching firm. So, if you and I work together, Justin, you could tell our principles as a firm in a different way than I would, that would resonate with a different audience. So as the owner of my firm, I want you to go tell your story. I want you to go get people to like you, that want to work with you in the way that we work with clients, because that helps our firm grow. I think the days of all of the spotlight being on the CEO are going to dwindle, because I think more advisors want to have a voice. They have things that they want to say, and it's easier to do that now than ever.
So let's say there's a young advisor or an advisor who wants to get their voice out there more, but's nervous to speak on media platforms, nervous to create their own content, is maybe timid about, do people really care what I have to say? Is there any advice you want to give to somebody who does have that desire, but maybe is nervous to pull the trigger and actually start doing these things?
Yes. First, just do it. But I want to back that up with that we all have felt that way, and we all still feel that way from time to time. So there's this thing called imposter syndrome. I don't know if you guys have covered that in any of your classes, but imposter syndrome is just what you described. It's doubting that you have the credibility or the expertise to say these things. And we all battle it. Carl Richards, One Page Financial Plan, the sketch guy, he talks about imposter syndrome a lot with himself, and he is wildly successful. Built a huge RIA, draws for the New York Times, and a great guy, but he still has imposter syndrome. I would tell you, even as a college student in the CFP program, you know more about personal finance than 95% of the American public. You are an expert to 95% of the American public already. So you have the credibility just through your studies right now. And once you get in the workforce and you have experience, then you have even more credibility. So I wouldn't second guess yourself. I think it's just figuring out what's the way that you're most comfortable, and also realize that getting started, you're not going to have a huge audience. So if your writing's not up to where you want it to be, or you're not as comfortable on the microphone as you would like to be, that's okay, because it's really probably going to be family members and friends that might listen early on. But as you get the reps in, as you're doing more and more, you get comfortable, you find your voice, you can do it a little bit faster, you figure out how to communicate things better than you could before. And by the time people really start to pick up the content that you're creating, you're much more confident, you're better at it, and it's the right time. So I just want all of you to know that feeling is normal. And even once you start to have success, you're still going to have that creep in from time to time. So it's completely normal, but you're an expert. It's just figuring out how are you most comfortable communicating, and just start there. You don't have to do a bunch of different avenues. Like, I do it all and I love it. But I didn't start out that way. I started writing first, and then I jumped into video a little bit, and then I jumped into podcasting. And with more time, I feel like I got better, and it's a lot of fun. And one of the cool things about creating content is it opens up the door to networking and collaborating with other advisors. One of the things that, especially on the independent space, this is something I didn't think about earlier, on the independent space, advisors are a lot more open and willing to talk to other advisors. And again, I started a community of 120 advisors, technically competitors, but we're not. We're all collaborating together to get better, because we each have our own lane, and we can't help everybody. We're not trying to get all of the potential clients in the world. There's only so many clients we can help. When you move to the more of the corporate space, because it's more sales driven, there's numbers driven, it is a little bit more of me versus you, even within the same firm. So you might not have that collaboration, but on the independent space, creating content, interviewing people on podcasts, collaborating on a video together, you get to start to build out a network of advisors. And I will tell you firsthand that building out a network of other advisors, your peers, is invaluable. My network over the last 5 years it blows me away. If you would have told me 5 years ago, the people that I know today that I talk to regularly, I would tell you you're crazy. But through creating content, those doors opened up, and now they're friends and mentors. And if I have a question on a planning technique that I don't know, I have the smartest people in the profession in my Rolodex that I can call and ask and get help with, and they're happy to do it because we become friends. So there's a lot of these side benefits that come to this content game beyond building your brand and starting growing your business. There's other things that come from it as well.
So do you think that's part of the reason why it's so important to be authentic? Because if you really create your own lane, probably there's not a ton of overlap between 100 different advisors. I mean, do you think that's fair?
I totally think it's fair. And even let's say you and I had the exact same views. We both, our portfolios would be exactly the same. The way we view planning together is the exact same. We could be, mirror images of each other, but you have a different personality. There are certain things about me that might drive people crazy. Maybe they don't like that their financial advisor has tattoos for whatever reason. They're super conservative. So even if we're saying the same thing, there are certain things about each of us as individuals that resonate more with others, our interests and things of that sort. So there can never be too much content created by advisors. When you go into creating content, though, you have to remind yourself why you're doing it. Are you doing it to compete with the Josh Brown and the Morgan Houses of the world? No, you're going out to create content to hopefully allow people to identify you as the advisor they want to work with. So don't get caught up on trying to build the biggest audience. Think quality over quantity. The numbers of viewers, the numbers of downloads, the numbers of page views shouldn't matter when you're doing this if you're seeing small ticks up and you're getting good feedback back. But yeah, you're exactly right. The content allows you to be you and own every bit of the good and bad of yourself, because there will be people who like that. And that's all you want to do, is you want to find enough people who like you that want your help, and you'll be able to build a successful business. If you could get to 100 clients, you will have a wildly successful business, a lifestyle that you want to live, and then you can decide if you want to go bigger. And I think that, I don't know what the population is in the US, but surely you can find 100 people that like working with you, that need your help, that you would enjoy being with. It doesn't have to be year one, slowly build up to it. But once you start to get a little bit of traction, getting to 100 clients, 200 clients isn't as hard as it might sound.
So kind of in closing here, is there anything that you would like to tell the young advisors, anything unique, your unique message to what might help them get through these early stages, right? So it's a tough career to enter in. We have a high attrition rate, but for some reason, people like you make it through and build a strong independent brand. So what are the things that we should be thinking about if we want to end up like somebody like you someday?
So many things, but none of them are super scary. So the first one I would say is you've got to know it's going to take time. We have turned into a society that likes instant gratification. It takes time to build things up, and you've got to know that. So mentally, you have to go in, whether it's creating content or building your clients, realizing that it's going to take time, and there's going to be times that you second guess yourself, and maybe there's going to be times where you want to give up, and that's where the networking comes into play, because you have another advisor who's been there, done that can talk you off that ledge and keep you in the game. I think another piece of advice would be, going back to one of my earlier comments, is everything needs to be about the client. All this content and brand building is fun and it's good for business, but if you're neglecting your clients, it won't matter. So don't lose sight of, we are financial advisors first. We need to be making sure we're taking care of our clients and doing what's right for them. And then that kind of speaks to, don't get too hung up on which business model you go into right out the gate. You don't have to find that perfect fit right away, because you're going to learn things along the way. Stereotypically, bigger firms, the ones that maybe you don't want to be at long term, have better training programs. So maybe the plan is, I'm going to go get the training that I need get licensed, and then find my next step. And then you find the next place, which is maybe a little bit more independent if that's where you want to go. And then you kind of get there. So don't get hung up on finding the right place. Find a place that aligns with your values as much as possible and that you're going to be able to do good work for your clients. When you get to creating content, I would say, we've talked about it multiple times, but authenticity. And another reason for being authentic is you've got to make sure that this persona that you put out on your content is who you really are, not just in the office, but when your clients see you out at the ball fields at your kids' soccer games or at the grocery store on your weekly, grocery shop. It's hard to keep up this image if it's not really you. So be yourself, put yourself out there, and people will like you and the right people will find you. And then I think just have fun. Being a financial advisor, I mean, obviously my career is centered on it, but I think it's one of the best professions in the world. We get to help people in an area that most people don't know enough. It scares them. It's extremely emotional. And just by being there and helping them make good decisions, not even picking like investments or things, but just not panicking in February of 2020, staying with the portfolio, having a plan. Those little things that we do as advisors save people from blowing their retirements and their futures up. And that's a huge responsibility, but it's also a lot of good that we get to do. So we have huge impacts on our families. I can't think of very many professions where you really impact somebody's life like we do. And then the final thing I would end with is going a little bit back to kind of that impact we have on our clients and the imposter syndrome that we talked about. If you find yourself doubting the ability or the credibility to create content and tell your story and kind of bring the message out there, I mentioned Carl Richards before. If you don't know Carl Richards, go follow him on social media. He has a good newsletter and has some books, but I'll butcher the saying, but it's something to the extent of, if you truly believe the work that you do is life-changing, impacting people's lives positively, then it's your duty to go let everybody know that. If you really believe as a financial advisor, we do a lot of great work, we help our clients and we make a difference in their life, then you should be wanting to yell that from the mountaintops to let people know so you can help them or you can help direct them to an advisor that can help them better. So we really do have a great profession. And that's not even getting into the flexibility. I'm recording this Friday morning with you from my home. I never leave the house until my boys are on the bus to go to school when we were riding buses. I don't miss any of their games. And that's because we have a schedule that's flexible. It really is a great profession. So I think that those of you that are in that program, getting the CFP designation is a great start to coming in the profession. As a business owner, like that's something that I would look for. So just stick with us. There are more and more advisors that have a mindset like mine that I think would be encouraging to somebody entering the profession now, that you're going to have the opportunity to participate in the business. You're going to have the opportunity to have your brand and tell your story. More and more advisors are seeing that light as the advisor force kind of gets older and younger advisors are becoming the leaders. So just stick with us and get involved.
Awesome. Justin Castelli, thank you for coming on the show. It's been an honor for myself and the Michigan State University Wealth Management Association to have you on our podcast. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Justin. And I apologize for rambling, but I get going and I love this stuff. So I appreciate you letting me come on and looking forward to sharing the message.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Vincent Pacillo, producer of the MSU WMA podcast, where we are inspiring and educating the next generation of financial planners. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please check out our channel on all platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and check out our social media at MSU WMA and MSUWMA.com.